Gather round, friends, new and old, and welcome to the Roast and Toast podcast. We are your hosts, Philip, David, and Jenny.
Well, good afternoon, folks.
Good afternoon. David, you're the one who I want to go to first here because as of this recording, we are shortly removed from your birthday.
Oh, yeah.
And I'm curious, yes, I know. I get, again, a happy birthday in passing, even though by the time this airs, it'll be much later. But still, how did you celebrate that you would want to share publicly?
So the night before my birthday, I went to my place of work, which has alcohol.
Mm-hmm.
And,
Yes.
and so
Very
did
important.
I. So I work for a company that sort of owns several bars in a square kind of. And we went from one bar, hopping from bar to bar, and had at least one drink in each bar. It was always ambitious, but what I should have taken into account, since I know most of the bartenders, all the bartenders really, that we encountered along the way, what I should have taken into account is that there was always going to be extra shots than what I had already planned. So I already knew more or less what drinks I was going to have in each bar, because each bar has like their own niche, you know? And I knew I wanted to get a beer in this bar and a whiskey in this bar and a cocktail in that bar and a wine in that bar, you know, and I had that already planned and I wanted to stick to that. What I didn't take into account was the extra shots that would be brought my way by all these people who want to celebrate my birthday with me.
Oh, yeah.
So I knew before we got into the last bar that I'd already hit my limit. You know, I'm not 20 anymore. I know my limit. I'm also very tenacious and very determined, and I wanted to get to the last bar and have the last drink, and so I had another drink and another shot, and
It took you over the edge.
And good night.
Yeah, it was real rough that night. Nicole was a real trooper.
Oh, even at the night of.
Yeah, even the night of, because we then had to, because buses home end at a certain time, and we didn't want to leave before midnight, you know. And also, I couldn't scooter if I was going to be getting drunk. So we took bicycles, and we had to have a 40-minute bike ride home. Sloshed drunk. And Nicole was a real trooper. She sat with me, held my hair back while I threw up in the toilet.
Oh, very wonderful friend of the podcast, Nicole. Wonderful.
And wonderful girlfriend, major points.
Yes.
And fiance, excuse me,
yeah.
fiance.
And then the next day, I woke up with a hangover, despite upchucking mostly the night before. Took a nap. The nap helped. Felt more or less right as Ray after the nap.
Got to get that Gatorade to rehydrate, my guy.
Yeah, Nicole made me a homemade proper Gatorade, just like lime juice, a little bit of sugar, some salt, and water.
Oh, nice, very nice, very nice.
That's the best way to get your electrolytes without having to buy a Gatorade. Anyway, yeah, the next morning was a bit rough, but after the nap, I was fine, and then celebrated with my family that evening. We went to a nice pizzeria. I had a nice dinner together.
David does love himself
Came
a pizzeria.
home. My mom had made key lime pie, and it was the first time I've had key lime pie on my birthday made by my mom, and it was really good. It was really good. Nice. Love a bit of key lime pie, and it was really great. Yeah, enjoyed my birthday. Well, what have you guys been? How did you guys celebrate my birthday week?
I didn't get drunk, although I should have in honor. I have a question for you two, because you're both are in the arts. Do you believe, I guess, empathize, if you will, David, because Jenny at least will have intimate knowledge of this. Do you both believe that if a theater that you are going to go see a show at cannot provide you air conditioning, or at least up to snuff air conditioning, does that merit a show not going on? Because
in Arizona, yes.
In Arizona, yeah. Especially now.
That's the key point there. It's, I mean, here I'd be like, well, it's a little toasty, but whatever. But there,
we're going inside after now. Granted, it's a night show. It's at 7 p.m., so it's a little cooler. Like you're not baking. I went to go support a friend in a theater show. Also, actually went on a double date, so brought others along on my good name and my friend's good name, and we went in there and. I'll tell you, it wasn't up to snuff. You could feel that the air conditioning was working, but I mean, the performers were sweating. We in the audience, like I was glad that I had a playbill to assuage the heat stroke that was coming on. And me and my girlfriend were taking turns utilizing it. It was just on the precipice of being too much, but not enough to merit me telling my friend, look, we're all kind of getting toasty here at intermission. We're gonna leave and all that stuff. And plus, it was a fine enough show, but it was very uncomfortable. And by the end, I actually had like a heat headache. I didn't even know I was capable of this. But baking in the heat for a while and trying
That
to
can happen.
hydrate during, yeah. So it made me contemplate this thought where if you don't have good enough air conditioning, dare I say, that is akin to a football game being rained out, or being akin to a baseball game being snowed out. I guess that probably doesn't happen nearly as much, but some weather affecting it. I feel like air conditioning, especially in Arizona in the middle of summer, even if it's a night show, demands accommodations or demands that the air conditioning work. I don't know. Maybe one of you is feeling more sympathetic than I was that night, but I was
I
was
can't
toasty
relate.
and not.
I can't relate,
not
but
okay.
I'm not particularly sympathetic.
Yeah.
That's rough.
It's one thing because it's a hit or miss if theaters are going to have proper insulation or proper like the construction of the building or the room they're performing in. It's got to have decent airflow in there to make it comfortable, right? If you don't have air conditioning on top of that, especially if you live in extreme temperature state, that could be extremely uncomfortable and in some cases a health hazard because there are some
dangerous. Yeah.
it's just not okay. I know that some theaters have taken that safety precaution and they've had no choice but to close because their air conditioning has decided to go kaput. I've heard businesses, I've know several businesses that I have worked with or that I'm aware of in our state that have had to close.
Yeah.
So it's like, why would you put health at risk? Like it's not okay.
Yeah.
It's not worth it.
So that was my weekend. I celebrated sweaty and stanky with swamp ass. Jenny, how was your weekend? Any cooler?
I stay indoors always, so I always try to stay cool. Well, actually, gentlemen, I am in mourning. A beloved object of mine has recently gone kaput.
Oh, no.
And I've had to replace her. And it was a very sad moment. I took a moment to acknowledge my dead sound machine as she decided to stop working.
Sound machine. So is this a speaker?
This is well, yes, technically it's a speaker.
Okay.
I primarily used it for sleep sounds. It's gotten me,
Oh.
well, it had gotten me through 7 years of peaceful slumber. And the buttons on the machine have stopped working. And I was like,
7
no.
That's a good
Yes.
run.
We've had a good run, old girl.
So, Jenny, is the plan to get an exact replica and go back again with the comfort that you know, or are we upgrading? Are we going to something where you're
Honestly,
like,
I don't know if I can because I haven't seen. I did try when I knew she was starting to go down. I tried looking up and seeing if they still made that model. I don't think they do.
oh
because-
no, yeah, 7 years. There's new gadgets and gizmos that are going to be updated.
Oh,
Yeah.
absolutely. Especially if they're iHomes, they just
Oh yeah.
continuously crank out new builds. So I have a basic ass Amazon one now. So I'm gonna just use that one and let that one go kaput, and then maybe I'll upgrade. It's not important to have a crazy one, just one that's simple and makes the sound of rain.
For a certain amount, yeah, for like $3 a month, Jenny, I'll make you a recording.
Oh, yes, you'll be my sound machine for hire, Phil.
All right, let's move along.
Well, we are doing a fun main topic today. We're going to be doing a draft. And this is my first draft because I was away
Welcome.
for the last couple. Well, it's my first of this kind of draft. I guess.
Yes. We always have the blockbuster,
We've
which
done the blockbuster
which is next
draft,
weekend.
of course. But this is a little different. We're doing this purely for clout. I don't know.
Sports and entertainment. Yeah.
I don't know. So it was up to me to pick the topic that we would be drafting today. And I chose a category that we can't seem to agree on how to define, but it is film franchises. And we were having a discussion of what constitutes a film franchise. And we decided to continue that discussion on the podcast so that the listener, can be a part of it. We had set a couple rules already. All right. So
Yes.
we're talking film franchises. So even if those franchises happen to have streaming shows as well that are part of the universe, those don't count. Those are not included.
Akin to Star Wars versus the Acolyte, right? You don't.
Right.
If you,
don't
pick Star
get
Wars,
the
you don't get the
Mandalorian,
Acolyte.
you don't get Kenobi. right? It's only films. You cannot draft a film franchise but omit a movie or something, or omit a couple movies. But then this is where it starts to get dicey. So where do you draw the line of what constitutes a franchise? If you draft the Dark Knight trilogy, or do you draft all of Batman?
Batman. Just Batman.
Because that also then has a crossover with the DC extended universe. So we were in the midst of this discussion before we hit record.
So I think that if one is to include something, and also you're punishing, well, not punishing, but at least you're forcing people to include everything, even if it's a bad sequel, right? If it's a bad,
Right.
For akin to the earlier discussion we had was Ghostbusters. If you're forcing people to include the first two and the most recent, as of this recording, last two featuring Paul Rudd, Ghostbusters, then I guess the question boils down to, is the Ghostbusters that bridges the gap, is that included, or is that fair to include, or versus even
Well, that's a hot topic.
I think I should say, if I am to have a vote, I think once you have a slice of a pie, then the pie itself should be gone. Again, if we're picking Batman, regardless of whether or not it fits into the entire whole of DC, of even like just Sony's DC or the DC expanded universe, I think that it is something that, if you want to limit it down to Christopher Nolan's Batman, I think then that you just take Batman off the table. I don't think that...
I agree with that. I think that's fair. So once you've drafted Christopher Nolan's Batman, all other categories that include that,
Lego Batman, Val Kilmer's Batman.
Well, you could do all those.
Danny DeVito Batman.
Yeah. But I'm saying that I think you can be allowed to draft a category within a category. So like Christopher Nolan's Batman, and you're not obliged to take the rest of the Batmans, but you can't take Batman as the whole, but omit certain Batmans. You know what I mean? And then once one person's taken Batman, that sort of excludes all other forms of Batman.
Right.
Including probably the DC universe.
I was going to say DC universe, then you go into Justice League, and then that includes Batman, but it's different Batman, yada, yada, yada.
But can you then... I would say that you can't then draft Justice League once Batman's taken, right? I don't think this is going to be a huge deal. I think...
Yeah. Jenny, do you feel differently than me and David kind of do? Of like, if you take one slice of the pie is kind of gone?
I don't know, because... there's been so many different interpretations, like in this discussion, Batman. There's been so many different variations of Batman. It's kind of hard to like. You can see those different visions, and my mind separates them. But I guess in this case, for the draft purpose, I feel like yes, one slice being taken kind of eliminates the whole pie.
Cool.
In order to get ahead of what is probably a favorite pick, or something that I would imagine is going to get picked, I do want to make one clear specific specification. If we pick Spider-Man, or any iteration of Spider-Man, how does that play with the Marvel Cinematic Universe? Does that then exclude any film that has Tom Holland's thing, or are we just including in any Spider-Man drafting of any iteration of Spider-Man? Does that then mean that any standalone films, anything that we can justifiably say Spider-Man is the main component of it, stands on its own and it is excluded in the MCU selection?
I mean, that's an interesting one because Spider-Man has been independent of the MCU before the MCU existed, and has sort of become independent again, semi. So yeah, I would say that maybe you can then have the MCU, but it can't include any Spider-Man movies. Any movies where Spider-Man
anything that features
exactly.
Spider-Man, features, not just as a side piece. Okay,
and
so it sounds like we're
the criteria here for whoever's going to come out the winner here is quality of movies. We're not going on gross, or we're talking about quality of movies. We're aiming to draft the highest quality set of franchises, right?
Sounds good.
I have a wheel spinner here.
Okay, good.
I'm going to spin the wheel. Are you hearing that?
It comes with a sound effect. I love that. That is incredible.
All right, the result, I hate to say it, is me. And then after that, we will go to
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Jenny.
Jennie.
And then we will finish with Philip. Should I one more time?
Yeah, just why not? Why not? Indulge
And
us.
Philip.
There we go. It's all good.
Okay, so it'll be David, Jenny, then Philip, and then we will continue in a snake pattern, right?
Yes, as always, yes. So, David.
All right, with the number 1 overall pick. I didn't expect to have the number 1 overall pick.
Take it.
Again, so I got to base this on quality of movies throughout the entire franchise that I want to draft. And I'm going to start with the Dark Knight trilogy.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that means no Batman for you
Batman
or
for
I,
you.
Philip.
And kind of explain your pick there, David.
Yeah, I think it's a small franchise. It's a small subset of a greater franchise, but I'm picking the Dark Knight trilogy specifically, which is kind of its own franchise. It stands on its own, and I think each movie is of a high quality. You don't have any duds. You know, obviously it peaked with movie 2. I think most will agree. Movie 2, The Dark Knight, was the
universal.
movie of that franchise. But Batman Begins is rewatchable in my opinion, and The Dark Knight Rises also rewatchable. One of my favorite directors, in fact, really my favorite director, and I've seen all of his movies, and I absolutely love The Dark Knight trilogy. And who doesn't love a superhero movie? It's a superhero movie mixed with great quality movie, you know?
So that the positive is, I think, undeniably, no need to explain The Dark Knight. The question becomes is, what do you find to be the negative in this trilogy here, David? Rises?
The weakest point?
You think that's going to be the weakest point?
I don't know. I don't necessarily think that Rises is worse than Batman Begins. I think they're both great movies. I love the character of Bane, and I love the way that Tom Hardy played it. So I guess I'll say the weaker one is Batman Begins. But then again, it's still a great movie in my opinion.
The fact that that's your weak point makes it a worthy, makes it a worthy.
Well, that makes sense because like it's establishing Christopher Nolan's version of Batman, and it was finally fleshed out and finally got to shine with Dark Knight. So that makes sense, and it's just baby steps, that movie.
Absolutely.
You know?
So Jenny, we have a first overall pick. Now here's the second one. Can you find within your film franchise knowledge of a seemingly good second pick?
Oh, I've got one that's perfect to start off with, because not only am I a huge fan of this franchise, but if I don't pick it, my brother might kill me. I am claiming the Godzilla franchise. I'm not talking about good old MonsterVerse. That's a hit or miss for me, personally. I feel like it's a little bit wonky. I'm just talking about good old...
But you are obliged to take the Godzilla movies that are in MonsterVerse.
Yeah, that's fair, but to be honest, while they're
established.
entertaining, I feel like those movies do have a lot of flaws. I feel like the majority of the time, they are movies that are just being crafted for the sake of putting these monsters on the screen to fight. I would rather be able to, because the plots, I watch for plots, I watch for characters, and they just don't hit in these movies. Well,
but there are a lot of good ones.
Yes, there are a lot of good ones.
How many movies does this franchise actually... Because this, I'm guessing, would actually include all the Japanese ones as well.
Well, I'm referring to Toho's Godzilla. There's over 33 films in that franchise. The MonsterVerse, I think right now only has 5.
5 with... But then there's also
and
the
we're
1999 Godzilla.
Yes, we are counting that.
God bless you, Matthew Broderick.
There was a time in my life where I liked that movie. Back when
there was a time in my life I enjoyed it too, yes.
Yeah, I mean, it was a big dinosaur running through New York. It was exciting.
The Toho's Godzilla franchise has been running since the 50s, and they continuously crank out great work.
Was Minus One part of that franchise, or is it separate?
I'm double checking that now. We're doing it live, but I'm pretty sure yes, Godzilla Minus One is a part of that.
If she's taking them all, then I would definitely
no, of course
Godzilla
it includes Minus One. I'm just curious if Minus One is part of the Toho's.
Minus One, yes, that is part of Toho.
Okay, cool.
That was the biggest one for me of like, oh, they are really crafting these characters, and they are really defining where Godzilla has come from inspiration-wise, and they're kind of just reinventing what they're doing with this monster. So that's my claim, 100%.
I think that your positives there is that it's historical. You have certainly the
Mm-hmm.
volume. If anybody were to draft any of our franchises for things to watch, for time spent on a deserted island for entertainment, I think
Mm-hmm.
that yours certainly has the volume and certainly has the scope and breadth of history that allows for a lot of different flavors. I think that Godzilla Minus One offers a quality of a story that might have been lacking as a negative towards the overall pick. But a quality choice there, and a quality film franchise, certainly both financial and in quality. It
Finally
ranges
being recognized by the Academy, by the way.
that
Right.
too. Yes, an Academy Award winning franchise. Not all of
Mm-hmm.
what's picked today would probably be considered that. Okay, so now it comes down to
Yes.
my pick, and I'll have back to back picks. And the first pick is going to be simply is a mixture of quality for me as well as something that I am almost certain, possibly, that it would not make it back to me, especially when we're talking about film franchises. The Godfather trilogy is widely renowned, I think, for 2/3 of the films. It not only boasts quality that is for an original IP, but as well as boasts the idea that a sequel can possibly be better than what is a first film that is widely renowned and widely respected. To have a sequel that is that quality is just so good. And I think it's actually the quality set as a precedent of the first two films and the mounting rise in such great depths of storytelling that leads to the disappointment of the third. And it's also one of those first films that had such quality built upon itself that I think that the third, if taken by itself, is just an average film, an average to slightly better than average film, and a lot of good components are still there. Unfortunately, some of the bad components, a la Francis Ford Coppola's daughter's acting in the film, is really astoundingly bad, just horrifically bad, that it brings down the overall film undeniably down, whereas the first two films, one could argue, have no blemishes. There is nothing wrong with either of those films. So overall, the average, outstanding. The fact that if I had to say what is and possibly the highest of highs is going to be with me, I'd argue. But I will unarguably own one of the lowest lows in the third film. But I'd still say that it's just an average film. Have both of you seen all three of the Godfathers?
No.
David, I think, yeah, I was going to say we've gone over this.
I've seen the
the
first
first
one.
one. Possibly
You know,
The first one. I haven't seen.
I've
The
got
second one's
something
been
to
on my
confess.
list since I saw the first one.
I've got something to confess. I've never actually seen the first Godfather. I really should. I know. I feel like it's a step.
That was me. That was me.
I am
up
now banned from the
until-
podcast.
No,
I am.
no,
Goodbye,
no.
guys. It's been a fun.
There's so many of those kinds of movies that I've also never seen, like those like legendary movies that I've just never gotten around to because it was before my time. You know, The Godfather I happened to get to because my roommate, when in my second year of AMDA, of acting school, was like, "Good, you haven't seen it? Let's watch it tonight." And we watched it, and then we were gonna watch the second one, and we never got to it. So that's the only reason I actually sat down and watched the first Godfather, and I'm glad I did, and I still want to watch the second one, but it's just like getting around to watching a 3-hour movie that is, that is going to be amazing, but is also incredibly slow,
Yes, and dare I say, David, make time for that second film.
I will.
And then have this same thing of like, I've never seen the third one. I really should. That's the one that's acceptable. The second one, you really should delight yourself. And then Jennie,
But I kind of want to, once
have a
I've seen
night.
the second
Have a
one,
night.
I want to be able to be part of the discussion of like, oh yeah, the third one really does suck, I want to know what everyone's talking about.
I understand, but if you're gonna deprive yourself of that portion of the conversation, at least let it be the third one, not the first
Well,
two.
of
where,
course,
where-
yeah. I wouldn't watch
yes,
the
yes,
third
yes.
one without having seen the second one.
Yes, absolutely. All right. So to round out the first round, we have the Dark Knight trilogy taken by David, thus excluding the rest of Batman from any of our choices, thus leading to our bigger discussion. Godzilla was our second choice with Jennie, having the breadth and volumes of a full-fledged film franchise. And
Yes,
I
sir.
am taking the Godfather trilogy, does not include The Offer, which recently came out on one service or the other, I don't even know, on television. Just the three films, which includes
course.
first two films and the third, unfortunately. But I'm going to my second pick as I get the first pick of the second round. And guys, I'm taking a classic. And
Oh,
I don't mean like 60s or 70s. I'm talking about the 80s, baby.
Oh,
Or at
oh,
least the
darling.
film is set in the 80s.
set in the 80s.
It's set in the 80s. I'm talking about something that's real groovy, baby. I'm talking about Austin
Oh.
Powers.
Oh.
Let's go. The spy
Great
who shot.
choice. Wow.
Thank you.
Fantastic.
Here's the thing. I don't think that this was on either of your radar, especially given
No,
the
it
reaction
wasn't.
I
I
have.
forgot
Not
about
even
that.
close.
Not even close. But you want to talk about quality? You want to talk about a film franchise that is beloved to me? And I almost cursed. Can I tell you that a film that has banger after banger after banger, even the bad one, which I it could be argued the first or the third one. I don't care which one you think.
Yeah,
They're
they're still watchable.
They're-
They're still
they're still watchable. They still have
They do
funniness,
still hold up.
and they hold up. And even in the comedy is there. Whenever you watch it, it's undeniably funny. It has iconic moments that you can think about. It made Mike Myers' career, or was like the ultimate thing in my mind, to where I know Mike Myers from. Fantastic film franchise that, again, I realize I reached on this one. I think I could have had this in the third round, but
Probably.
I needed the respect of a second pick for me, because even though there were picks before it, Austin Powers, the quality is in my heart, my friend. Austin Powers, I'm opening up the variety of my team to comedy, and we're taking it, baby. Austin Powers. Where are you going, Jenny?
You know, I'm surprised this hasn't been claimed yet. I'm gonna go ahead and just claim the good old, the whole Wizarding World. Please
Yeah.
put that on my
Ooh,
roster. Well, in light of recent unfortunate news for our
Which kind? I mean, Jesus Christ, J.K.
I mean,
Rowling.
seriously. But at the time when these movies were coming out, the level of power these movies
a
had
strong
over
pick.
us, when
the boy who lived.
this was the time too where they were still doing the big intros in each movie, where they do the big reveal of the titles, kind of like what Pirates of the Caribbean did. There was that whole era where they just, yep. There was that whole era where they just did the big reveal of the titles and all like the.
And there was the
this
Warner Brothers logo, which was gold in the first movie, and then like a different
Oh,
gold in
yeah.
the second movie, and then it just
Yeah.
got darker and darker. and
Decays,
darker.
yes.
Oh yeah, though the power this franchise had over all of us as we were all growing, hitting puberty, living our teenage lives, it was spectacular. I'm claiming Wizarding World with full force.
I think you're weak. Funny enough, the quality of your pick is a upward and downward slope, where I think depending
There is
on
a
who you
slope.
ask, yeah, there's a slope that goes up and down. Near the end, some people petered out there, just in terms of quality. Some people weren't happy with all the choices, and then certainly to begin with it really, I think, aged with our demographic and our age group the best, because it starts out as a pure, just no, no questions children's film, and like in the first two for sure. The third
two.
is if
The third one
first two
starts
for
to get
sure.
a little darker, you know.
Yes. And realistically, it follows the tone set by the books as well. However, that being said, when it reaches up in quality, most of the time it succeeds in doing so. And I think it really peaks in those darker 6,
So I'm
7
curious, actually, what
films.
this includes Fantastic Beasts, then, right? Because
Yeah.
Yes, it does include Fantastic Beasts.
So what's the low point for you? Give us a couple movies that you think are actually the low points of this franchise.
To be honest, the fifth one wasn't my Order of the Phoenix wasn't my
Mine
personal
neither.
favorite.
Mine neither.
It's not a good book either. It's just
I feel like it's
Harry's
the filler
a
episode of
butthole.
the franchise where it had to get us from point A to point B. I think
Yeah.
the same too with Half-Blood Prince did a little bit more for me personally,
Yeah.
but I think Order was the big
How
filler.
many Fantastic Beasts
for
movies
sure.
are there? 2 or 3?
I think there's 3 now.
Right. I think the second 2 of that are kind of meh as well.
To be honest, I'm mostly thinking of Harry Potter's story. I'm not personally including Fantastic Beasts because this was kind of those movies were coming out after my time. I know they're a part of the franchise, but this Fantastic Beasts started coming out when I
Well,
kind of
I'm just
started
saying that
drifting
those
away
two
from
would
paying
also
attention.
be weak points in your draft. So, in my
Yes,
opinion.
Fantastic Beasts is not a perfect
I like the
section of
first.
this
I like the
franchise.
first one. The first one was fun.
First one was generic enough. It was all right. And then the
Yeah.
next two were Johnny Depp marred and what have you. Yes.
I'm
Okay.
still trying to understand the progression of age for Dumbledore between showing the way that the years are between Jude Law and Michael Gambon. It just doesn't compute with my
Don't
brain.
age like that, most of us, hopefully. Like, that is a stark
It's like
age move.
Dumbledore's been through some
Stuff.
crazy.
David?
All right, so I get my back-to-backs now, and I'm really like I have other franchises on my list ahead of this, but this is another franchise that I think lacks a really bad movie, and so that's why I'm going to go with it first. And this is the Bourne franchise, the Bourne
wow.
Identity,
Oh.
the Bourne Supremacy, the Bourne Ultimatum, the Bourne Legacy, all of even the Jeremy
Born Austin
Renner.
Renner.
The
Jeremy
Jeremy
Renner, yeah.
Renner one is also a good movie. Like, I watched these a few years ago for the first time. They'd been sort of I'd missed them for a decade, and then I finally got around to seeing them, and they're good movies, really good movies. So, struggling to remember which one I think was the worst. I guess maybe Supremacy. I'm not, or the
Supremacy
Jeremy
is-
Renner one. But all good movies, I think. So.
I'll be honest, I've only seen like 2 or 3, and I think at the time that they came out, they were a bit too heady for me. So I never really identified with these films or found the quality in these films outside of the action, which is undeniably great, and I think has inspired action set pieces going forward from its time. And so that's really, really nice. But the actual story itself, I am familiar with some of the beats. I'm not familiar with the intricacies of the film.
Fair enough.
So there
Well-
is Bourne.
For my third round pick, I am going
Close
to
it
go
out.
with something fun. I'm going to go with Back to the Future.
Oh, that was on the list. That was on the list.
Snap-a-doodle.
Very nice quality. Yes.
Again, another franchise that, in my opinion, lacks a bad movie. Although, if I had to pick, it would definitely be the second one. The second one kind of it has like this darker tone that didn't really work for that movie. You know, those movies are very fun, and the second one kind of hits this sort of like spookier.
I was going to say, I think
You
you're
like
out of the norm there. I think most people think the third is the
Oh no, I
weakest
love
of
the
three.
campiness of the third one with the Old West. I thought it was so much fun.
I love that entire
I
film
love that
franchise,
one
so it's
too.
That's the
hard
thing.
for me
It's-
to say.
There's no bad movie.
There,
I really
it doesn't
don't think-
exist, so I'm just picking which is the
I
worst
don't
of
think
my
I've
children.
drafted a single bad movie so far.
Man, the error of our own ways when we choose our own fate. So Back to the Future film franchise, the third one too, also being Steven Spielberg having a live trailer for a sequel to come out, was amongst the first instances that ever existed in cinema.
Right.
So it's revolutionary in that regard. The only negative that I know of that goes with it is that the casting process was different. Marty McFly's father was not the same from the first film to even the second film and then the third because of casting of disputes over a contract, I should say. And plus he hated his existence in the first film with a lot of what they did. It's a fascinating story. Go and look it up. So anyways, Dark Knight Trilogy, Bourne's franchise, and Back to the Future closes out David's roster.
I think we should
Jennie.
go for a fourth round.
Yeah, we should.
Let's do a fourth
Why not?
round. Otherwise, Phil, you get the worst picks. You know, you have the opportunity for another back-to-back here.
Okay, we can see if we have
Yeah,
enough.
let's keep
Sure.
going. Why not? This
Why
is
not?
fun. I'm having a good time with this one.
Go ahead, Jenny. What's your next one?
Well, it wouldn't make sense for me to craft a draft of franchises without including a horror franchise on my list. Doesn't
was
make any
wondering.
sense.
I was waiting for this. Come on.
So actually, I had a tough time with this one because I was like, ooh, what could have the power to create a very successful draft? My brain went to the Conjuring universe. It's not my pick. I feel like this universe, while it was successful the first couple of movies, it's been stretched out like taffy, and we've been delivered mediocre movies ever since. One franchise that I do want to feature, though, is the Scream franchise.
Ooh, okay.
Defined 90s horror to the T. It was the first defining slasher 90s movie that allowed commentary on horror tropes. It has, I know we're not considering box office numbers with these franchises, but it's killed every single box office opening weekend.
Excuse the pun.
They've all been literally And all like popularity wise, it's always managed to stay at least above 50%. They're well loved movies, and there hasn't been a crappy one yet, in my opinion. So Scream franchise deserves to be on this list.
I think out of all the scary franchises that would have qualified on here, that would certainly be tops among them. The only one that really has unparalleled quality in it, time after time, outside of the one that I'm eventually going to pick, will be the It franchise. But then it only has the 2 films. That doesn't let it qualify for a film franchise.
Well, it's a hit or miss if the TV miniseries counts as a full-length situation. But I know that's TV. It's not a film. But yes, it is technically, I checked the numbers, that is the highest grossing horror film right now. The 2017 It. It's way above everything.
Yeah, I'd imagine so. All right, so we come into an interpretive pick that I'm wondering if will be allowed. I'd imagine it will, and maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I have too much faith in humanity and my fellow man. Jennie has the Scream franchise. I too wanted to go horror because I think a well-balanced roster is really what's necessary. You have 3 point guards on your team. You're not going to have a good constructed basketball team. You have 5 quarterbacks on your NFL team. You don't have one. That's the old mantra. So if I'm going to go in the scary, if I'm going to dip my toe in there, I want quality. I want something real good. And I'll tell you where the quality can be found right now in horror, in thriller, is the Jordan Peele film franchises that continues to go. And now we're going to go into an interesting discussion on what constitutes a film franchise.
Yeah,
See,
I mean, one of the things I thought I didn't have to mention was you can't just pick a director. I couldn't just pick Christopher Nolan films.
yes, but I think that Christopher Nolan has such variety that Jordan Peele currently does not have. Like, I think whenever you think of the connective, like obviously if you're looking for a connective thread, it's Jordan Peele. But I feel like there are things, and it's been argued that is its own universe anyways, that it's the Jordan Peele universe. All of his director films are all in the same vein as far as horror/thriller. I think that they all have commentary towards something, and I think that they all could be set in the same universe, and many have argued that they are.
How many are there?
There are
There are
3. There's
3.
It, Us, and...
No, Get Out.
Get Out.
Or Get Out.
Us.
Yeah, Get Out, Us.
I haven't seen Nope, but I didn't really like Us, I have to say.
I thought that Us had a great beginning and a fascinating ending.
I was just like, what was the point of that movie? Maybe I just didn't get it. Maybe there's someone listening who's like, oh, what an idiot. You didn't get it? But I didn't understand what the hell that movie was trying to tell me.
Us is considered, if you had to rank, a lot of people do rank Us as last in their rankings because people just like Nope a little bit more. People appreciate the wild western sci-fi take that he did with Nope. With Us, it's more of a body snatchers situation. Yeah. I would love to see and look into more of how these movies link. Right now, I don't see any sort of connection between these 3 movies.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, so if you guys don't want to consider it, if I'm getting a veto, I do have alternative picks.
Sorry, Phil. I do need to veto
there's
this.
There's 2 vetoes
that's not a franchise.
there. I had too much faith in my fellow man.
Well, I want to appreciate and acknowledge your choice for dabbling in the horror genre.
Thank you. If I have to then switch around what I need to do, then I will go to a different route. And I'm going to stick with what would have been my 4th pick. I will go to Shrek. Shrek will be, again, we're talking
now
about
that's a franchise.
Yes, Mike Myers. But you want to, okay, there are lows here. Shrek the Third is atrocious. Not even quite possibly, more than likely the worst film that can be found out of any of these. However, if we're talking about quality founded upon and exceeded on a sequel, I argue that Shrek 2 is just a fantastic film and a fantastic sequel, like amongst the best sequels, 100%. Regardless of animation or not. It is one of those that qualifies what a sequel should be, where it builds upon the world set upon in the first one and exceeds the expectations of it. Not to mention, as of recently, I think Puss in Boots is a fantastic film. It was outside of even
That one
just
got
like
nominated for a lot of
it
stuff.
got
Yeah.
nominated for a lot of stuff, both in animation and art style, but also Puss in Boots was, for me, one of the top 10 films of its year that it came out. It should have
Yeah,
been
yeah,
nominated for
yeah.
an Oscar for Best Picture overall, regardless of just animated. So
It
this, and
really like played on like it's a kids movie, but it played on like real emotions that I was like, oh, I was like,
that
what?
I thought was
It's like,
genuinely,
oh, this is
genuinely,
good. Like
yes,
digging at something I haven't dealt with
dealt with,
yet
and yeah,
in my psyche.
yeah. There was like,
Inside Out.
yeah, you find it very hard to go to that dark side and dark
Yeah.
level of yourself for
It's
a
like
kids film, what you would perceive to be.
fear of death. It's like
Yeah,
it's like what is this? Is
PTSD
this a
and all that.
kids
Yeah.
film? I don't know.
So Shrek, I think that there's a lot of great quality and good humor, and also it also offers a variety and something that I don't have of a lot of kids films. To close it
Excellent
out,
pick.
there's volume here, but as a last pick, I can't avoid the value that it provides, especially on the upper tier of what it has. I have to
I'm
go.
wondering. I'm between two. I'm not sure what you're gonna say.
I don't have I don't have a superhero representation on my list.
Now I know.
Oh goodness gracious! I'm gonna go with the MCU. It was between two
Yeah.
variations. The MCU,
You are
it has
picking up a lot of bad movies, but you're also picking up quite a few good ones.
quite a few good ones. Look, I mean, just because that now, like, we'll look back on it and they'll be considered classics someday. God, I hate getting old. Very few things left in our society have blockbuster drawability. And say what you will about the quality of these films, they still have that. They still bring a crowd and still create that experience that was around a lot more when I was younger, of having a live audience reaction that's not just three people spread about in my artsy film. That's not even sometimes artsy films. It's just a not a blockbuster film that I don't get anymore. So whenever I go see, by the time of this recording, Deadpool Wolverine, whenever I see that, and I get to go see that with the rest of an audience and have that audience interaction and kind of get a proper commons man gauge of things, I can appreciate that outside factor. And if we get into the absolute crux of what the MCU is, there's a lot of different variety on genres. There's a lot of good quality in certain set of those genres. And you do get the Infinity Stone saga, which has been detailed and everything else, and has Thor in it for the majority of it, which are bad films except for Ragnarok. Some people love those films. Look, I think there's quality to be found here. As a fourth pick, as the last man, as the sixth man on my roster, I
Yeah.
can't be upset with that. So MCU, come home to me, and I'll just feel artistically bereft of my soul while counting my billions in money.
Fair enough.
That don't count on here.
All right,
Jenny, what's your last pick?
close your roster out.
I'm about to pick kind of a weird. I'm going a weird angle here.
All right.
We have yet to pick. Well, we have one animated franchise in our rosters, but I think we need to consider something in the Pixar realm. We haven't dabbled anything in Pixar yet,
Mm-hmm.
and they've been around for a very long time, creating amazing movies.
Oh, wow.
I
So
this was on well, it's not on my list, but it was definitely on lists
The
that I've been
purview.
looking at. Yeah.
Yeah.
since I have yet to include an animated franchise on my roster, it's about time I do. I am claiming the Toy Story franchise.
Yes.
There it is. Yep.
The Toy Story franchise, I've checked the numbers on those as well. I know we're again not considering numbers. I think everyone here agrees that the Toy Story franchise movies, every
good.
single one,
Yes.
has been incredible. Torn at our heartstrings, made us bring a box of tissues to the theaters. We all love Woody. We all love Buzz Lightyear. The impact, it's got to be on there. Toy Story franchise is mine.
So the weak sauce in that amalgamation of Toy Story films would be Toy Story 5? Because I think a lot of people questioned it before it came out. Did it need to exist? But then once
Well,
it did,
Which
Yeah.
one was number
I don't-
5?
number 5 was with Sporky.
Sporky.
Do you remember
yeah,
Sporky?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was also thinking about that one.
That's the
At
one.
that point, yeah.
That's
yeah,
the one
the-
that most people question its need to exist, its existence, and whether or not they should have ended it at 4, because 4 just felt like such a natural ending.
Right.
I don't
no,
think
they
it's a bad
decided
film,
when they were stretching the franchise like taffy just a little bit to crank out number 5 because they remembered how successful it was, it fell victim to the we want to make more money, so let's just crank out this movie situation.
And there are rumors that they're going to possibly do a Toy Story 6. They need to stop. They must be stopped.
No.
I don't want it to start staining the legacy of Toy Story. If you wanted to even possibly reboot the Toy Story franchise, maybe go to a different. Why with these toys? Go to another set of toys if you want to keep continuing the Toy Story. Start something new. Start something different.
I don't think Tom Hanks wants to keep voicing Woody. I think he's ready to move on.
It's hard to keep a Woody going that long. David.
I walked into that one.
All right, is my final pick and the final pick. I'm going to draft a bad movie here. There's at least one bad movie on my roster now. But I think for the sake of the quality of the first 2 movies, the supreme quality of the first 2 movies in this franchise, the third one's good too, the fourth one's all right, and the fifth one sucks. Any guesses?
I know where this is going.
Do you?
Yes.
Any guesses?
I wanted to hum the tune, but it's escaping my brain right now.
Is it
Well,
Spider-Man?
we don't have to pay royalties on that. No Spider-Man.
There
Yeah, Pirates of the Caribbean, however you want to pronounce it. Again, the first 2 movies are some of the best movies ever, I think. They're among the best action-adventure movies that exist. The third one's good. The fourth one's all right. And the fifth one I didn't really enjoy.
So fascinating. I did not enjoy
Another
the fourth.
movie that has been cranked out for money.
I did not enjoy the fourth. The fifth, I liked a lot better, but I am a sucker for Javier Bardem, I will admit.
Yeah, I don't know. I feel like a lot of things were really forced. And in the fifth one, Johnny Depp was almost playing a parody of Jack Sparrow.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, he was really it wasn't written well. Yeah, I didn't enjoy the fifth one at all. The fourth one I didn't really like that much either, but I think it's all right,
So one would argue,
but
I was going to say, one would argue that you have 2 bad films in that franchise and then one bad.
Sure. But
I do want to mention that the fifth film was created while Johnny Depp was experiencing the end of his marriage to Amber Heard, so he was going through some stuff during that time. So
I do think the writing failed him as well, though. I really
that's
do
true.
think. It wasn't just on him. I'm not putting it
Yeah,
on him.
absolutely. That's fair. Mm-hmm.
So then there we go. So I have in my roster, I've got The Dark Knight, I've got the Bourne movies, I've got Back to the Future, and I have Pirates of the Caribbean.
However you want to best say it. So the way that we have been doing it, that I think is probably the fairest, is that I will give us a countdown of 3, 2, 1, then we will vote on who we think has the best one. You must exclude your own roster, as I'm sure that we all have faith that our own team is the best of the 3. But if 2 of us land on one, they are the winner. If not, I don't even know. Maybe we'll go to the polls. Maybe we'll go to the streets. Yeah, stalemate as it was. We all constructed the perfect team, I guess. As it is, take a moment to go over our rosters. David, you have the Dark Knight trilogy, the Bourne franchise, Back to the Future, and the Pirates of the Caribbean. Jenny, you have Godzilla, Harry Potter franchise, the Scream franchise, and all the Toy Story buzz you can get. I have the Godfather trilogy, Austin Powers. I wanted Jordan Peele. I don't get Jordan Peele, but what I get is Shrek and the MCU. Those are our 3 teams in full fighting for force. Bam. Look at that. I saved it. This is
going to be a tough vote.
Yes, it is. I feel ready with my choice. Jenny, are you ready with yours?
Oh, I'm struggling. You guys have crafted, mine's my favorite, of course, but you guys have done a really good job crafting your franchises. This is a really tough vote for me to make.
David, are you ready?
I'm ready.
I'm
ready. Yes.
He knows. Okay, here we go. Once again, it'll be 3, 2, 1, then say your name. Or say the name that you're wishing to vote for. 3, 2, 1. David.
Philip. Jenny.
Oh, I've said mine. Sorry. I failed that. Philip.
Okay.
All right.
Well, I take
Philip,
it.
you take the win.
I do. Was it Austin Powers? I feel like I reached both of you with Austin Powers. Was just the general. Oh, no, it was. Okay, never mind. Never mind.
See, you reached me with Austin Powers. For me, I've never seen any of the Scream movies. I like a Godzilla movie, but I've only seen the American ones. Toy Story was never really my thing. I didn't really watch it until I was maybe 10, and by that point I was like, I guess it's all right. So that didn't touch me, but Austin Powers, the MCU, that's kind, like
for its foibles, it's still...
and Shrek, you got me there.
Yeah. All right. Well, fantastic. Glad to have you on board, David. I finally won one of these. It was Jennie and Guest for a while taking home the gold, and I'm now glad that I get to raise the Olympic banner of gold for my own
Bill.
Philippines.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Congratulations.
May I help you?
You talking to me?
I need to talk to you.
A little word of advice.
You're welcome.
Oh, you're welcome then.
I just gotta say, that's my favorite intro we have for all of our mini segments. That just makes my heart smile. That intro is for, of course, You're Welcome, where we each bring a piece of advice to the table that we want to share with our listeners and with each other. I'll go ahead and go first. You never really know how much stuff you have until you have to move it all. I treasure all my treasures, but if I can move 2 boxes of books instead of 5, that's a win. Recognize what items you actually need to fulfill your life and keep your inventory low. Downsize your stuff. You're welcome.
I think moving is amongst the healthiest things a person can do for themselves, because then it forces you. It forces you.
And you have to clear the clutter.
Yeah, you're just like, when's the last time I did my swivel work exercise? I don't need this little bougie thing to swivel around. I don't need it, so I'm going to give it to Goodwill and help give it life afterwards. David?
Join me in boycotting 3D cinema so that they finally know that no one likes it.
In a continuation.
I seriously don't know anyone who actually prefers it. I'm finally taking the initiative and starting the movement, and for that I say you're welcome.
Does that count for 4D?
Also, waste of time. Waste of money.
What about for the Avatar franchise? I feel like that's the last one that gets away with it, that people actually would want to go see it.
I still don't think the 3D is really improving it that much. I think maybe it is the one that a lot of people do still want to see in 3D, but I miss, if you're going to see something in 3D, it better be like, remember Journey to the Center of the Earth?
Spy Kids.
Or something, where there was actually stuff that was bouncing out at you, and that was different, man. That was a better time. Anyway, join me. You're welcome.
Join me, please.
Joined.
Won't you? When planning on going out with your significant other, whomever is the planner in the relationship to going out, make sure to include 10, oh wait, I forgot my thing minutes in any plan.
It's me. I'm the problem.
I'm the problem. Yeah. I am the one who's usually, all right, what time do we need to leave? Or I'll be the one to say, all right, then we should leave at this point. And every time I talk with my girlfriend, it's always this, why are we leaving so early? And I just because traffic. But if we're all being honest here, in a moment of honesty, it's because both of us are guilty of this, but at least I'm the one who will plan accordingly. Both of us need those 10 extra minutes of, I forgot my wallet. I forgot the movie theater cups that are loyalty cups. I forgot to take out the trash with fresh banana bunch of peels in it, and now it's going to smell when we get back. You can't get back that time that otherwise would make you late for an occasion, or then you have some extra time to go to get coffee before you go to whatever it is give yourself 10 minutes. 10 minutes at the end of the day to be early is not going to kill you. You get there. We all have our phones to entertain us for 10 minutes if you're early. 10 minutes of, oh, wait, I forgot my thing. You're welcome. As the wolf howls, so must this episode end. But before we leave you, dear listeners, we have a few thank yous to get through first.
Yeah, thank you to Cass and Crossland and Jake Corlang for the music you hear on the show.
Thanks to Ryan Ardell and Josh Hans for a lot of the audio bits you hear throughout the show.
Thank you to Rudy Chalk for all of your wonderful graphic artistry that you see in all of our social media.
And thank you to you, the listener, for listening in. Yes, you listening right now. Thank you for joining us each and every week. We hope that you go back into the annals of our history of all the show and go and listen to each and every episode we have available to you. Of course, you can find us across the social media spectrum, whether or not that be on Instagram, Twitter, formerly known as Twitter, now I guess X, whatever. Nobody cares. Everybody wants to call it Twitter. Facebook, we're even there. Pretty much everywhere that you can find all of your favorite podcasts, Google Podcasts, Apple Podcasts, Spotify Podcasts, YouTube, everywhere except for Pandora. Why? Because screw you, Pandora.
God, I love Roast and Toast, but God, none of those idiots drafted a single bear movie.